first of all, let me say that my other son, who lives in New Jersey, along with his wife and 4 children, also came along. So I have 16 grandchildren together for 10 days in Israel. Okay, we were woken up Saturday when we've been coming here 20 years. We were woken up by a sound we had never heard before, which was a very loud, piercing siren sound. My son came down and said, we sleep downstairs. He came down and said, it's an air raid. Don't leave, don't go out of the apartment, stay here. Probably what seemed like an eternity, but was probably only 3 or 4 minutes, the siren stopped. Then we heard 3 very loud booms. I later learned that 2 of the booms were rockets from Gaza hitting in open fields that we can see. The 3rd rocket was shot down by the Israeli Iron Dome missile defense system. Okay. My son went to the synagogue. He came back an hour later to say, a policeman just came by, said there may be terrorists. Now this is now 10 o'clock in the morning. There may be terrorists in the neighborhood. If you have a gun, go home and get it. If not, lock yourself in your apartment or lock yourself in your synagogue. Remember, at this point, there are many women and children walking up and down the street, celebrating the holiday. So the day went on that way. We went into a lockdown in the apartment. There were an occasional policeman armed with a rifle driving up and down the street on motorcycles, and 2 or 3 more air raids within the day.
So you have your entire family there while
that is correct.
While this war breaks out, really just
around us. That's right.
Within miles from you. And what has happened since then?
Well, Sunday there were 6 air raids. We stayed near the house. We did not go out. And the air raid sirens went off, and a couple of times when they stopped, we looked out, we saw rockets hitting open fields. We also saw we were able to see the Iron Dome intercepting an incoming missile. Okay. Sunday night, probably the worst part was my son, who lives in New Jersey, got a message from a friend that their son was a lone soldier. A lone soldier is an American boy who either before or after college, 18, 19, 20 years old, decides to join the Israeli army for a year or so. And the message was very clear and very painful. Our son was killed yesterday in fighting in Israel. We can't attend the funeral. Would you please go? I mean, a 20-year-old boy who came here to do good things. It was very, very heartbreaking. That was Sunday night. The funeral was Monday at the Israeli military cemetery in Jerusalem. Okay. Monday, there was a blood drive, which my son and a couple of my grandchildren went to. It was just overwhelmed. So Tuesday, they went back. They moved the blood drive to a 12,000 person soccer stadium at the soccer. Okay. When he said there were lines, unending lines in the middle of all of this, the sirens go off. Everybody runs into the soccer stadium. And when the all clear comes, they go back outside and find their spot back online. Nobody cuts ahead, nobody pushes, nobody shoves. When he finally got into the building to give blood, he was number 900. They were only up to 400. But, and he said, while we're standing outside every so often, somebody say, I'll be back. And they'd come back with 2 cases of bottled water. They'd come back with 10 pounds of cookies. That's what was going on. At the same time, a number of my daughters had a call from a neighbor who said, I'm driving to southern Israel as far as I can go. I'm taking food for the soldiers, fresh food. My granddaughters then ran to the grocery store and made over 100 sandwiches, labeled them all, packaged them up, gave them to the neighbor who delivered them to these soldiers. Okay. The next day, one of my sons heard about a packaging place where they were packaging supplies for soldiers. He went there. He said he got there. They were told what they needed. These soldiers were called up with no warning, and they ran, understand how the system works in Israel. You get a call up when you come home. First of all, when you come home from the army in Israel, you bring home your uniform, you bring home your weapon. These are reserve soldiers who have their weapons and their uniforms in their home all the time. When the call-up comes, you're told what corner to report to, and a city bus comes by and takes you to the army. You're in uniform, you have your weapon, you have 20 minutes, whatever the time limit is, and now you go to war. I mean, there were soldiers who didn't have clean underwear. There were soldiers who had forgotten their phone chargers. They didn't have toiletries. So at the end of the day, where my son was working, they packed toiletries for 18,000 soldiers. And this is just one, and it was all done in somebody's home. Somebody just opened their home in their backyard, and they had this huge, many, many people helping, and just everybody wants to help. Okay, so that was Wednesday. There were no air raids on Tuesday or Wednesday. Today is Thursday. Things seem to be coming a little bit more back to normal, but it's still, the country is at war. You don't see the number of buses you should see. On Tuesday, the mayor of, or the head of the army said that if you live in Jerusalem, there may be a food shortage. So everybody went out and loaded up their house. By Wednesday afternoon, by Wednesday morning, the shelves were bare in all the grocery stores. Now, Wednesday afternoon, the delivery started coming. Israeli Arabs who work in the grocery stores started returning Wednesday afternoon to stock the shelves. So now, I mean, I was standing outside the store today when the milk delivery came, and there was a line of people just to get fresh milk for their children. Okay, now there was a lot of milk on the truck, and I'm sure they did not run out, but there's a war going on. I mean, remember, where I'm sitting right now is 50 miles from Gaza. Okay, I'm sitting in Glens Falls, and the war is in Albany. Put that in perspective of what's really going on today. 50 miles, that's it. And, Tel Aviv is probably 40 miles or 30 miles. Those people are in Saratoga, and the war is going on in Albany. Okay. We saw a couple yesterday pulled up outside my son's apartment. They were in Ashkelon, which is right near southern Israel, unpacking a car full of clothing and children. And they said they tried to leave Tuesday night. The army said no leaving after sundown. By Wednesday morning, they left. The town was full of Israeli tanks. Okay. One last story that will upset everyone who hears it. Another neighbor's son with his wife and family live on one of the kibbutzes that was attacked. He said at 9 o'clock in the morning, again, it's a holiday, it's a joyous day. All of the men are in the synagogue. The women are pushing strollers up and down the street with their 2 kids. When somebody runs in and says there's a terrorist attack, again, if you have a weapon, go get it. If not, lock yourself in the synagogue. He says, I can't lock myself in the synagogue. My wife, who's pregnant, is waiting for me. He runs out the synagogue door, starts running down one side of the street. Coming up the other side of the street is a terrorist, armed terrorist, shooting innocent people. He hid behind a tree. He got home. That's what went on here. The terrorist was shooting women, pushing strollers, and killing the women, and the children. That's the level of violence and hatred and murder that has occurred here on Saturday. Okay, if I could give you a statistic, the population of America is 40 times the population of Israel. Israel lost 1,000 civilians, over 1,000 civilians on Saturday. In America, that would be 40,000 civilians. In the entire Vietnam War, we lost 55,000 people over 10 years. In one day, Israel lost the equivalent of 40,000 people. 9/11 was 3,500 people. You have to understand the extent of what's going on. Okay, carry this over to the Army and the reserves. Israel called up 300,000 soldiers. If that was America times 40, that would be a number that's mind-boggling. Okay, it's just, that's what's going on here. If we have 7 degrees of separation in America, we have 2 degrees of separation in Israel. Okay, I am an American, that's my home, but I have children here. I'm a Jew, I care about Israel. Okay, the time it will take for Israel to recover mentally is a very long time. It has taken 75 years. We still talk about the Holocaust and the 6 million Jews who died. I have no idea how long this will take, but it is as stressful and as painful to the Jewish community around the world as it is to you watching this, in Albany, New York. I feel it's my job and to get this message out, and that's why I'm talking to you tonight. The message has to go out. People need to understand the level of hatred. People have to understand the murder of children and women. It is not acceptable in this world for this behavior. These were not soldiers. These were not combatants. These are women pushing 2 kids in a stroller. Okay, the 20-year-old boy who died from New Jersey of wounds on Saturday. He was just a Jewish boy from New Jersey, doing what he thought it was right and putting off his going to college for a year. Okay. So, I think that we've perhaps learned a lesson, perhaps not. I mean, there's a trend in America towards additional anti-Semitism. Maybe people around America and the world will understand the Jews want to be left alone. They want to live peacefully. They don't go out and kill people. As you've read and you've watched the news for the last 4 days, what other nation in the world gets on loudspeakers and warns people your building will be destroyed in 5 minutes, get out? Okay, when they target a building in Gaza, they blast it with loudspeakers first. Your building will be destroyed, get out. And 10 minutes later, the building is destroyed. Nobody does that. You've never seen that in a war. So, Israel's trying, and, that's what's going on today.
Do you have plans, or does your family have plans, your son as well? Does anybody have plans to come back here anytime soon? Can you come back here?
Well, okay, let's break it up into a couple of different groups. My son, who has lived here for 20 years, lives here. This is his home. You're not leaving your home, okay? His children are in college, they're in high school, they're in elementary school, and this is their home. They speak perfect English, they speak Hebrew, they're studying college degree programs, and this is where they are. My wife and I, my other son, his wife, and 4 children, we've had about 4 flights canceled to come home. Okay, we read about what the State Department is doing. At this point, it appears the only airline, and I don't speak for the airlines, we were canceled on United, we were canceled on Lufthansa. There are no flights to North America other than the Israeli airline El Al. So we are scheduled to come home Monday night. We have scheduled tickets. We certainly hope that happens, not to escape, but because we've been here too, and we're living in close quarters, and you can't, a visit is very nice, but it's come to an end. And my family here has to get back to normal. My children from New Jersey have to get back to school. By the way, there is no school here. All schools are closed. Most malls are closed, other than grocery stores, which they're trying to keep up. There's not much going on. There's no traffic jams on the roads. It's just very calm here. Too calm. I mean, again, we're 50 miles away.
Peter, what's your message to either the people here watching everything unfold overseas, or even to the people that you're surrounded with right now?
I guess my message, and it may sound crude, is Israel was attacked by people who have no caring for human life, and that these people are not part of the human race, in my opinion. And Israel needs to do what it needs to do to get rid of every one of them, because there will never be peace until Hamas is cleared out of Gaza. These are horrible, terrible people who simply want to cause terror. Okay, read the statistics, read the numbers. Look at the number of teenagers who were killed at a rock concert. Over 250 children, teenagers. Okay, they weren't doing anything wrong. The women and children who had their children killed next to them, those children weren't doing anything wrong, those infants. These are not human beings, and we need to get rid of them. And I'm sorry if I sound a little bit harsh, but that's truly the way I feel today, and that will not change.
No, it's completely understandable. Are you and your family safe right now?
We are in Jerusalem. We are 50 miles away. There has not been a siren since, I believe, Tuesday morning. We went to a mall for an hour today just to get the children out, just to do something. We're as safe as we can be. But I'm leaving 12 grandchildren here when I come home, and I'm hoping they're safe. And to some degree, it's been like a COVID lockdown for the kids. Okay, we're going to do exercises in the morning. We're going to do reading in the afternoon. You got to do your math work, except the teachers are not Zooming anymore. They did Zoom during COVID. They're not Zooming now. So the kids are bored, and they like to go back to school. And the kids from New Jersey, school started last Monday or Tuesday. They got to get back. It's time.
How has it been explaining to the children what's been happening right around them?
So the younger children, the 6 and 8 year olds, I know the first couple of nights they slept in bed with mommy. Girls, very upset. The boys, roughly the same age, hydrogen bombs. They want to talk about weapons. The older ones, very proud of, the Americans, very proud of the U.S. sending an aircraft carrier. Listen, it's great. Studied, spend an hour on Zoom trying to learn about aircraft carriers today. I mean, we're, proud of America and proud of what we have the capability to do. But in the back of their minds, and they've not seen anything. We've tried not to let them see the videos. Hamas is posting videos showing the horror that they committed. We're working very hard to keep them off the computer and not letting them watch those videos. They don't need to see that when you're 12 or 14 years old, or anybody. I don't need to see it, neither do you.
I believe those were all the questions that I had. Did you want to say anything else that I missed out on, or that you missed out on, that you wanted to say?
No, I think we've covered everything, all of my thoughts. You know, anti-Semitism is a growing problem in America. People need to be aware of it. And that's the long-term view. The short-term view is that Israel is doing what it has to do to protect itself and make sure that this never happens again. So that's how I view everything.